All right. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I am Chris McMurtry, the product manager over at Arryved, the craft point of sale. And hopefully I just got it. Andrew, are we good to go? I think we're good. Okay, I'm going to repeat that just in case. Hi, I'm Chris McMurtry. I'm the product manager over at Arryved. And first of all, thank you so much to Andrew for allowing us to join everyone today to talk about a new feature that we're offering with the Arryved point of sale, and something that we think is it's pretty much a game changer. We've seen it out in the wild, and we think it's important to talk about, especially coming out of the pandemic. So what we've got for you today is we're first going to start out with just a demo, couple minutes real quick. We're not going to dive too much into it because I think something that's really interesting is talking about kind of the impacts to what this new tech offers from a service perspective. So we would love to dive into a demo real quick, and then we'll get a larger conversation going. And it looks like I got disconnected. So hold on 1 second. Let's get this going. 2, 4, 4, 8, 6. Gotta love tech. They're so smart to protect you until it doesn't work. So as that's syncing up, first of all, I want to tell you what it is. It's called Arryved's it's OpenTab. And essentially it is, you take a QR code on your table that you see here, and then you scan that QR code with your phone from a consumer's perspective or a guest. You scan that code, you get to see the menus that are available to you at your location in your brewery or your tap room, whether you're in the patio or you're somewhere else in the facility, if you're sitting at a bar stool. You scan that, you can see the menus, you get to place an order in, and it goes straight to the POS. It's awesome. Servers get alerted on it, and then they're able to bring that drink out just as quickly as possible, or the food item, whatever that may be. And just continue sending orders in, and then ultimately be able to pay and head out. We've seen that it's a pretty big deal when it comes to the pandemic to have something touchless, but we're also, from our perspective, really excited about what it can do to enhance that experience for the guests in the tap room. So let's dive in. All right, cool. First thing, I am going to go to my camera. Got a lovely little thing on the desktop right now, and you'll see I'm going to head over to Safari. And we are in Punctured Monkey. So there's a little bit of story behind that. It's something that our co-founders and a lot of our leadership team kind of experienced in the past. And as David chimes in, I'll let him share that story as much as he wants to. But what you'll see is this is kind of our sample area. And in here, you'll notice that I've got my little location identified, that I'm sitting in Brew Pub and I'm in Taproom 10, whether that's bar 10 or whatever. And you can see our like a normal e-commerce solution, where you're able to go ahead and put in a couple orders, and you're like, great, I will totally want that sour. Go get me one of those. And then the person sitting next to me really wants that coffee stout because it's blueberry, and who doesn't? So it's pretty straightforward, right? Simple ordering, your standard e-commerce kind of situation, really easy to understand. You get to check out your order, then you send it in. And then what we do, which is pretty important in our perspective, especially because from Arryved, mobile is key, is you do a just-in-time location check. So right before I press the order, I say, yep, I'm still in seat 10, because don't bring it to the people in seat 20. I'm here. We send it through. And awesome. My order's placed. My drinks are going to be on their way in a little bit. I can keep going through this cycle. I can place another order because I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm hungry, so I'm going to go to snacks. I want a hummus plate. That'll work. That sounds good. Oh, I got to add, I want some pita. Sounds good. Great. Place one more order. Yes, please. And then I'll get that hummus plate out on the way as well. So what's great, and we're not going to go into this right now because there would be too much really to demo, is what's going on in the background is this is syncing up to the Arryved POS. And the staff has all of the capabilities and the flexibility and the ability to serve, and the power of service, right? So they can go in and they can add orders. Maybe they're dropping off my hummus. I'm like, hey, I actually need another cognac sour because that was really good. They can place that order in through service, and it would show up here. We get to refresh that tab. Iterate, hang out, loving 2 hours at my favorite place at the Punctured. and then I'm going to go ahead and pay out. And this goes in and straightforward. I get to see everything that I ordered. I get to select my tip, and I had really great service. So I'm going to have to send that through and then go ahead and pay. Now, I could show you my credit card details, but we actually skipped that part because I actually logged it early on. And what it didn't show you is that we do a text verification. And I didn't want to go through that because that's just time. You get to log your phone number, you get a one-time password, you start your tab at that point with a credit card. For us, we do a pre-auth just to make sure that credit card is good and that you're not set up for failure, like someone putting orders in and orders in and orders in. And then when they try to pay, or at the end of the night when you close them out, you find out, oh, the credit card was bad. So we do that pre-auth. So this is the exciting thing. That's pretty much it for the demo because it's pretty straightforward. And what we hope from the Arryved perspective is we've made it really easy for guests to really just get those orders in and then pay if they want to. And more importantly, from our perspective, and what I think we'll probably be diving into as part of the conversation, is what it does to help empower the staff to really drive service on site. So, Andrew, I think at that point, we're ready to kick it off into the dialogue.
Hey, everybody. Excited to get this conversation going. And Chris, thanks for sharing all of that about OpenTab. And David, though, I know you're muted right now, but I'm going to call on you first. Chris referenced something called Punctured Monkey as like the demo brewery or tap room you use for all of your, in-house demos. Where does that come from?
Well, that was a Google Boulder construct. We used to call our design reviews monkey knife fights. And so we created a bar right outside the conference room that we used to do the design reviews in because we would kind of have to console each other after the design reviews. So after tearing each other apart going through the design reviews, we decided to all come back together and hoist a pint.
And what kind of drinks could you typically find in the Punctured Monkey?
We had 4 taps. Some of us who were homebrewers probably still had something going from that. And then we also had full cocktail bars. It was kind of crazy.
Sounds like a nice little perk there. But on to OpenTab, QR codes, there's something that we've kind of seen on the forefront of technology for some time now, but I believe in the pandemic, they finally caught on. Is this OpenTab technology that you demoed today, is it something that you were trying to plan pre-pandemic, or is it an innovation that came from, just the times of the past year?
This has actually been something that we've been thinking about for quite a while, but when we've been thinking about it compared to, I think, numerous others that are out there, it's how do we blend this all together? Because it's never really a pendulum swing that goes all one way or the other. You have some people who really would love to geek out and do that, and some people who still, probably like me, would like to engage the server and still have discussions about beer. And so you want to be able to meet the customer wherever they're at. And so that is really the big key for what we're trying to do and everything that we build. So this is just one more tool in the toolbox for our customers to be able to use.
Fantastic. And how has Arryved seen customer behavior change over the past year? I mean, besides obviously interacting with the QR codes, what other changes have you observed?
I'm going to let Chris lead this one off so that I don't do all of the talking.
Oh gosh. Arryved. Well, let's talk about online delivery sales of alcohol. I think we can't deny that there was a disruption there, and all of a sudden delivery is actually accessible. So we've seen a ton of online behavior or behavior switch to online. And also really the demand to be able to do things from your mobile device, right? So whether that be viewing online menus or getting orders in, or being able to order your to-go beer or a pickup or a delivery, like all of these different options where I think there was a lot of service focused around the in-person experience. And now like pandemic just forced us to look outside of that, and e-commerce is just such a bigger picture right now. What's interesting and is the idea of will it continue, right? The OpenTab functionality is going to be awesome. And like David mentioned, is like what percentage of the guests are really going to be like, hey, I still want to use my phone because now it's like ingrained to me and I don't know to do anything else. I know from my perspective, I might have two delivery apps that deliver alcohol locally, one with like a local retail store and another one that's just more broader. And pre-pandemic, I didn't have those. So it'll be interesting to see if they stick around from 6 months from now as summer opens up and we all go out again. So it'll be interesting.
What are the predictions that the folks at Arryved have about those permanent changes that we may see, whether it's continued use of QR codes or delivery apps? What are you banking on to happen over the next 12 months?
So I think we see for sure QR codes are here, right? Alex and I were talking recently how were QR codes like on their last breath pre-pandemic, because all of a sudden they are raging back and everyone knows them, and Apple invested technology to make sure that they were reading them better. Like we see QR codes are here. And do people want a physical menu? That I don't know from my personal experience and a lot of consumers I talk to as well through the Arryved conversation, but also, like personal friends. It's so easy just to bring out your phone now. However, it's the menu question, the digital menu, I think is interesting because as a story, I was talking to my uncle the other day. He's like, I just want to hold a paper menu. That's all I want. I just like it. It's like a mark of something going back to normal. And it was interesting because he's a different demographic. So I think we'll see, right? There'll be a shift. Digital's not going away. It's just not. It's a little bit easier to navigate. It's less paper, things to maintain. When you're tied into like an Arryved POS, then your inventory is updated live. So you don't have to worry about your chalkboard updates or your paper switching out or the reprints, like going around and marking out a line that got kicked. It's just live. It's just tied in directly. So there's benefit.
Yeah, I think in the last year, consumers have gotten so accustomed to ordering things at home. I mean, you can get anything on your couch. You can get the new movie release. You can get the beer from your local brewery or food or anything. And they're not going to want to give that up. So what that means for breweries is they now have to support that sales channel that they figured out how to do in the last year, and they have to reopen in person. And so what we're really looking at is how can we support our customers in managing both those sales channels and making it as seamless as possible. And the other half of that is, folks can get anything on their couch. And so what makes them get off their couch and go into the brewery? And it's that guest experience. And so again, we're focusing on how to make it as seamless and successful as possible for our customers to provide that guest experience. And we believe by adding in technology like OpenTab, we can add the convenience of ordering to your couch with the guest experience of connecting with your server and learning about what's on tap and just being out in the world and, forming relationships with people in your community.
And as we kind of had said, and it's exactly what Chris and Alex are alluding to as well, which is it is all going to still be this blended experience, but that blended experience is all about how you're going to continue building your contagious loyalists. Everything that we do is in regards to how you build those touches and how you interact. And so even within the same setting, it may be that you show up, you start by using OpenTab to order your first beer. And then when you come back from the bathroom, let's say, and you decide, hey, there's a spot at the bar, I can go ahead and grab another one. That changes that entire dynamic. So my entire engagement in a single sitting didn't even have to be that same way. And it's about also making sure that I still have those touch points as a staff, and I have that element to still engage, because there are those opportunities, not just to upsell for the perspective of to-go beer and so on in regards to this, but also in regards to continuing to further that brand so that there's that key recognition when you decide that you're going to go camping and you're sitting at the liquor store. It's like, oh, I remember that experience. I'm going to buy that beer and it's going to go with me when I go camping. You don't want to lose that piece as well, because that's really what drives your business. Technology is there to help. It's not to replace that piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting point, David. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, how technology, because so often we think technology as a replacement for humans, but that's not at all what you're saying. Arryved's talking about technology as a way to enhance the human experience. What are some of the ways that you see technology doing that?
The biggest portion of it is going to be in regards to reducing friction. And friction is usually at the end of your experience, and this is what makes craft so great. the beginning of your experience is that part and that anticipation when you're sitting there waiting to be able to get that first beer. Once you've had that, that's great. The part that's always friction and the awkward part of everything is that payment portion of the transaction. And especially if you have kids and you go to a brewery, because they're very family friendly, is that element of when the kids are ready to leave, you're ready to leave. And so how do you remove those pieces? And so that's not necessarily in regards to replacing the first portion of your entire experience and that great engagement and having that kind of cheers experience where you feel like Norm when you go into an establishment and get your first beer. It doesn't replace any of that and doesn't remove any of the onus on the establishment to make the customer feel special in regards to that. The technology is to remove the part that really should be in the background in regards to that at the later points in time.
No, I like to give a little personal experience why I can appreciate the technology you're putting out there. Just the other day, my wife and my son and I, he's almost 2 years old. We went to a local brewery, sat on the patio. Then like any 2-year-old who's been somewhere for a while, he got a little bit antsy, didn't want to sit at the table. There wasn't anyone outdoors at first when we got there. It started to fill up. We started to feel a little uncomfortable, so he wanted to go. Unfortunately, he was having such a tough time. My wife had to leave without him, and I had to go indoors and close the tab and literally run after them to beat them home. So I would have loved the OpenTab, specifically in that example, because it would have made my day a lot easier, especially with a fun little child out in the brewery patio. So I can absolutely see the advantage.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Chris touched on this in the demo a little bit, but part of OpenTab's strength is that you can move locations. So you come in, you sit down, everyone needs to eat. That 2-year-old, if he doesn't eat, he's really going to lose his mind. And then he needs to run. And so you move from, say, the patio where you've been sitting for 30 minutes to the horseshoe pit so he can hopefully not impale you with a horseshoe. And when you make that movement and you want to order again, you just rescan a new QR code. And so there's a unique QR code for every place in the establishment, whether it's a bar seat or a table or the horseshoe pit. And it allows you to be flexible and continue to get that service and continue to connect with folks.
So is it fair to assume that all breweries who are utilizing this technology are pretty well displaying those QR codes to help make this experience as seamless as possible?
Yeah, definitely. It's on the table for sure. The other interesting thing is to use the same technology for a pickup station, right? So it's not something that's nationwide right now because of different restrictions in different places. But once everyone really does go back to a bar service and kind of the table service model reduces a bit, then OpenTab still works, right? So you have the ability to put multiple QR codes technically on a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper, or it's a little business card thing that you put on a table, and it can say pick up at the North Bar or the South Bar or the patio bar. And so you can just scan that. You see what's on menu there, right? Because you don't want to order something and then in the wrong place and not be available. But you can do the pickup model as well. So just the ability to do a QR code, and with the general adoption of QR codes, I think it makes it pretty clear and pretty understandable. And especially in our case, it's a flexible QR code to figure out how to post. So if you want to put it at the bar so people can scan it to start it and then go find a place to sit somewhere, then that's a totally reasonable use case. And I think people are trained now, and it's really easy to get guests on board with scanning a QR code to do something important.
Chris, I agree with you. David, go ahead.
And I think to go along with what Chris was saying, it's to the establishment that didn't really figure out how this fits into their service model. And even going beyond that, what we think about that should be happening on a Friday or a Saturday is vastly different than when you would be sitting there on a Sunday through Thursday type of scenario, just based on how many people are inside of your establishment as well. So you may be really hopping as usual on a Friday and Saturday night, and then you decide that you want to use OpenTab, but maybe you want to craft this so that you don't do it during your slow times, just so that you get those more touch points. Because again, it always goes back to creating those contagious loyalists. But because the fact that it's always universal with our system that you can kind of use it as you want to be able to use it, and you don't feel burdened because you're losing money because you paid for some feature, it's always included, is the fact that you can shift this and you can do it on a day-by-day basis based on what is called for too.
No, I want to go back to one thing, Chris. You've mentioned the word menus quite a few times during this conversation, especially your uncle, you craving that return to normalcy and just having that menu in his hand felt a little bit more normal than without it in his hand. And for me, during the pandemic, the first experience I had when I went to a brewery and I got served my beer in a glass, I didn't quite understand what had happened at that moment, but I held it for about 30 seconds and I realized, wow, I already feel just a little bit more normal because I wasn't served my beer in a plastic Solo cup, but an actual glass. I would argue a different effect with the menu. I think with the menu, we talk about that physical menu, whether it's paper, laminated, whatever it may be. I would argue that the QR code phone menu could become the new physical menu and provide just as much information as value. And, in situations where we saw the guests spending a little bit more because they had a physical menu, I bet just having that convenience and the physical menu in their hands would be just as valuable.
I think you're onto something for sure. Well, of course you are, because you've got a lot of information at your hands. The interesting thing, and we definitely offer this, and it's critical, I think, to being able to do a deeper dive because, I think a lot of places are hamstrung with a single sheet of paper because of just production and the waste, not necessarily the waste, but necessarily the reprints. And, if it's laminated or not, you can't change it. Or the digital piece is really cool because you can modify that information as frequently and or as often as you want, right? So maybe this description wasn't really landed with people, but everyone likes it, but they weren't selling it because you named it this or you described it this one way. Well, then on the fly, you make the change and it's out there. So there's a lot more information. You can add more from a marketing perspective. It's much more powerful than just a single sheet because you can just change on the fly. That's for sure.
And also when you think about inventory, so let's say that's a busy Friday night and you have servers throughout the tap room taking orders and you have something like OpenTab taking orders as well, and you run out of the IPA. As soon as that IPA is kicked or the last order has gone through, it's going to be reflected on all the menus. So you don't have 10 people ordering the IPA and then being super frustrated because it takes X amount of time for them to find out that it's kicked and they have to figure out something else. So having all the systems synced and having that digital menu that can be edited on the fly either proactively or as a response to something kicking, then it's a much better experience for everyone.
As a consumer, Alex, I can also appreciate that. I went to another local brewery during the summer months. I scanned the QR code, and it wasn't obviously OpenTab, but the first 10 beers that showed up were beers they didn't actually have on draft any longer. So I got really excited about, oh my gosh, you have this on right now, and I wasn't able to actually order it. So I think it takes away a lot of frustration.
Yeah, and for the brewery, it's a lot to maintain. If you're maintaining the menu on your online ordering platform, you're maintaining the menu for your tap room and for your patio and for whatever else you have going on, you're updating information in multiple different places. And that takes time, a lot of time. And there's a lot of room for human error. So saving time and removing the opportunity for error is really important.
Now, we've talked a lot about how this benefits the guest, but how does this OpenTab and all your technologies, benefit the staff working behind the bar?
All right, I'll go in. Here's the deal: is there are so many different ways that I think this could benefit, right? So whether or not you need to have a little bit more flexibility from a staffing structure and just how many people you have on the ground, a feature like this can give you more flexibility. Maybe, and we're talking about a weekend and you've got an outside venue and there's people waiting in line to get a single stream of orders that you don't have to then go out to the patio, talk to the person and say, hey, what would you like? And go through that exercise. If it's a regular, and honestly, from a staffing perspective, if you've got 40 people waiting to get an order in, then half of those can just go straight in and you can have someone getting the drinks out and making sure people have the best experience that they can. When in that moment, that personal touch isn't as critical, right? But then you get to flex, as David said. This kind of thing also gives you the opportunity to flex it out to where you can maintain that personal touch anytime that you want. One of the things that was critical for us, I'll say, is that the human can always do anything that they normally can do. right? So anytime that an issue comes up with a guest, they are still empowered with all the tools at their disposal to make that guest have the best experiences as possible. So I think that's one of the most important things, is that you give the guest the opportunity to kind of control a little bit of the ordering experience and the knowledge, but then you empower the server to take care of them in every way possible. I don't know, David, you've got to have some more things to say on that one.
So there's numerous different ways to kind of look at this. And again, a lot of it's going to be in regards to flow and environment, and again, going to understanding and seeing how things work on certain days. The parts that you may shift in terms of the usual stress for servers during the busiest point in time, how are they going to get around to everybody? You can switch that a little bit in regards to making more runners. But the other side of it is during the days that you know that you can kind of change this and tailor it when you're a little slower, is it could be that first portion where I show up and do that order, and it brings that portion to the forefront. And I've already kind of seen what you've decided that you wanted to be able to get, and it might give me the opportunity. It's not always the upsell, but it's always those small little touches. I may then bring out what you ordered along with a little taster and said, hey, I had this, and then I was also going to present you with this, which gives you oftentimes a different opportunity to have not just that personalized touch, but also giving a person some expanded genre to, I guess, take a look and expand their palette as well, and it engages the other portions of those conversations. So again, it's the technology that enables you to kind of think a little bit differently as to how you're going to build your people to be brand ambassadors, and how they can look at the data and the information that's coming in to be able to craft better experiences for people that are out there if you just use that along with the other pieces.
David, that's a really interesting point you make there. You know, it opens up the door for a different kind of interaction between the staff and the guest. You know, before it's, you know, you greet someone when they come to the bar, you offer a recommendation, but now if they're ordering through the app, it opens the door for you to bring a sample and a whole new level of interaction. Are there certain examples besides, you know, bringing a taster of this or that you've seen where the staff is able to engage on a, you know, slightly more unique level? Or any suggestion you perhaps would give to the guest in this situation?
So to kind of backtrack a little bit, there's part of what you can envision it would happen and what we haven't really seen what really is going to happen just yet, because this is a fairly new technology that I think we've all been kind of playing with in some environments, but until we can kind of really see how this all plays together and how people are more unique in regards to how they think about applying this. And I think that that's where we derive an awful lot of our energy, as well as watching how the breweries are going to kind of roll this out. There's going to be some unique wins that are going to be there that we're going to learn from and continue to expand our product in regards to. We naturally have lots of pieces in our pipeline. This is just one of them that we want to take that are going to far even more exceed what just the order and transaction level, integrating our loyalty and all of the other pieces. That's going to give more power to the server beyond just the dropping of the taster. It's going to create a bit more of a personalized type of experience. So those parts you'll have to stay tuned for. But the early pieces of this is more along the lines of, we're going to be learning a lot along the lines, along with our customers as well, to find out how creative they're going to get with this too.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. With regard to loyalty, you know, with this OpenTab app, and anytime a customer uses it, are they entering their email address or any pertinent information that the brewery now has access to?
There you are. Yeah, definitely. Our goal is to create this unified consumer experience, right? And so as I engage, and I want to get points off of my purchase, whether I make that through a server or through an OpenTab purchase or through online. Like that's one of the key things about the Arryved ecosystem, is that it is integrated and that I can engage in all the different points in which I actually interact. So it's not just I have to do this one thing to get into the loyalty. It's at any point in time when I engage with this brewery, I can actually engage as a loyal member and kind of have those conversations, whether it's through like some kind of discounting or just some insider knowledge.
Chris, I want to back up for a sec. You mentioned loyalty and points. Can you talk a little bit more about the kind of program Arryved may offer with regard to that?
Yeah, we have a pretty customizable program in terms of how you want to establish it and how you want consumers to actually collect those points, and or if you even collect points. There's a lot of different perks that we call them. You've got offers and rewards, and then there's things that we want to continue developing out in the future. But right now the goal is to like create something that a consumer just naturally knows as a loyalty program, right? So I get points for my purchases, and then I get to redeem those points for some kind of discount or offer, or maybe a special invitation. That's a conversation we try to encourage a lot, is especially in states that can't discount alcohol. It's like, great, invite them to a release, let them get first access to that release, and that use your points for that kind of experience. Or it's use your points for a free tour, some kind of engagement activity, right? So it's, as David keeps saying, build those loyalists out.
So what goes beyond even that, it's not just the loyalty piece. As with anything that we've ever thought about, because we're very cognizant of privacy, going back to your original question about phone number and email, and you opt in. So that's the biggest reason why we have decided that each time that you engage, it's going to be you inputting your phone number until you've decided to become a loyal member, because we don't want to tie all those things together. We don't want to be creepy and auto enroll you into anything that you don't really want to be in. It's always been a fundamental tenet of our company, wearing the security and privacy hat that I have in the past, that it's up to the customer to opt in. Our job is to provide all of the benefits and hopefully give you the elements that you see the value in opting in.
Absolutely. And David, one thing you've mentioned early on is how a lot of the features Arryved offers are flexible, whether it's OpenTab or others. What are some of the other features in addition to the loyalty OpenTab that Arryved customers have access to?
As we kind of talked about when the entire shift happened, it's beyond just those pieces. It's the e-commerce side, is being able to do pickup and delivery. It is the ounce trackings that we are able to do in order to allow breweries to have really more access to liquid data that is out there as well. So this goes just hand in hand with all of those different pieces. We've always had tools and an abundance of data that can tell you kind of how people move within your establishment, what happens in regards to specific venues where people congregate more, staff tracking, labor sales, and even labor versus sales per venue inside of an establishment, if I'm patio, mezzanine, or so on. So a lot of it is really in regards to being able to see all the data that is out there, consume it, and then apply it to your business. And that's always been kind of the key element that we've had underlying in all of this. And even with everything that we're building with the consumer side of things, for what we've done for OpenTab, is to give you those tools that are just to help you become more efficient at what you do.
I'm going to put my sales and marketing hat on just real quick here and say that everything we offer our customers, we offer under one pricing package. And I'm not going to go into that in depth. Anybody can reach out. I'll explain what that means. But what we truly believe is that our customers will be most successful if they have access to everything they need to run their tap room, whether that's turning on OpenTab on a busy Friday night and turning it off on a Monday. They shouldn't be penalized financially for that. Whether it's having 15 devices live in their tap room or having 2, shouldn't be penalized for that. Turning on an insider program, a loyalty program, or accessing additional reports, or being able to manage their loyalists' email addresses. That's all included because that's what makes them most successful, and that's really what our goal is.
That's fantastic that they're 100% free for all those add-ons. Now, Alex, well, everybody here today, it's funny because your company deals with tech, you deal with data, and I interact with so many people in the craft beer space. And let's just say a year ago, while we were using the word data, it wasn't a word that you saw a lot of taproom managers and brewers using outside of maybe things related directly to the brewing process. And now I can't escape a day without seeing the word data. Do you have any interesting examples of brewers and taproom managers, using the data you provide to become more successful or even more so efficient? or just a use case where you could see it becoming more valuable?
I have one. So one of our customers, Ska Brewstillery, they always sold to go from their tap room. So they have food and cocktails, and they brew beer and brew spirits. But those retail sales out of the tap room really didn't account for much. It wasn't even really part of their end of month sales accounting. And so they experimented with incentivizing all of their employees, front of house, back of house, to sell retail out of the tap room. And then at the end of the month, we're able to measure how successful that was. And it turned out to become a huge portion of their monthly revenues. I think it got up to like 10 or 15%. Don't quote me on that. We have a case study somewhere. But the reporting that we provide allows folks to try something and then measure and see whether it's successful or not. In that case, it really was.
That's a really interesting study. And the folks over at the Ska Distillery, they're great people as well.
They are.
I look forward to visiting over there when I make it out to Denver area or Colorado in the fall. I look forward to that. Now, let's just talk about the general state of craft beer and the value of tech to it. Personally speaking, for you three, what have been your favorite technological, innovations outside of Arryved for the past 12 months? Anything that you've applied to your lives that have made your lives easier?
So I'll go
Chris,
first.
there we go.
I will, and because I alluded to it, and I confessed too, right? Alcohol delivery services changed my life, especially during the pandemic. There was a lot going on. We had a lot going on at the office. My wife had a lot going on at the office. We had 3 kids at the house and a dog, and everyone was going stir crazy. And when that package came on our front door, the adults in the house felt a lot better. And I think the kids did too, because they knew the adults would be a little bit happier. But I never envisioned that, to be honest. And I also didn't expect to ever have like the power at my fingers to like filter through the massive inventory at one of our local shops in town. The fact that they have like this independent like little app that we can go through and see what's available, the seasonals, and I can just look. And if I can't get there, then they can get it here. Or I even did it for a last minute movie watching in the garage, like midsummer. I remember being like, oh shoot, we're going to go ahead and have a couple people in our bubble have this thing outdoor and do it safely and make all the right choices. But it would be nice if we all had drinks, but we can't get out there real easily. So they just brought it to us. And like that happened really quickly. And I want to say even one of the breweries, we ordered directly from them, and that was a game changer. And I think it will stick, because sometimes I just don't, this sounds awful, I don't want to drive to the liquor store because it just requires figuring out kids and, all that extra stuff.
And Chris, a follow-up to you, in the pandemic, I give so much credit to the breweries and tap rooms that have put out a safe, accessible, friendly, inclusive pandemic experience, because the loyalty that we as customers have built with those breweries over the past 12 months, I think will continue to just grow over the course of the future. When you're ordering from your whatever app you choose, one of the two, do you find yourself ordering from those businesses that you've had a positive experience with over the past while?
100%. I don't think you just can't devalue that at all, right? That really great experience. And I will go looking for their stuff first, unless there's something specific else that I want, right? But yeah, no, I think that attention to detail and that relationship is trickles down everywhere, from talking conversations and all that.
Absolutely. And I think having that safe environment where it's just easy to go in, order, get what you want, and close out, ties in so perfect with the technology that Arryved's putting out there. I think you're really adding to the loyalty that customers are having to breweries. And while the guests might not even think it's becoming part of what they're used to at the brewery that makes their taproom experience even more efficient. Now, Alex, I'm going to put you on the spot next, because I don't know your favorite technological innovation over the course of the past year. It could be an app. It could be some physical technology. What have you really appreciated in your life?
So I'm going to build on what Chris said and generalize it. It's just curbside pickup. Curbside pickup as a whole has allowed me to shop locally more than I honestly think I did pre-pandemic. And I always strive to shop locally because I care deeply about my community and the businesses in it. But likewise, my husband and I both work. We have 2 little kids. Our life is very, very full. And there's minimal time to be like popping in and out of stores to get what I need. But now, you know, there's e-commerce everywhere, and I can go to the local hardware store that I love and just pull into a parking spot and grab what I need without, you know, resorting to Amazon.com. You know, so it's a general sort of mentality and way of engaging with your community that has kind of shifted my world, and I'm not going to let go of that.
I think we've all enjoyed that convenience, but more importantly, it's the loyalty to the places that matter that is really important. And David, I believe in a past conversation, I asked you a similar question, and I think you might have pivoted it towards an Arryved-based response. I'm going to challenge you to say your favorite addition to the world that's not something Arryved has created.
Yeah, and so I'm going to say it's actually not technology, because of the fact of being forced to be at home, rediscovering some hobbies that I had long since had not done. And in fact, to go along with the brewing community, it has been a while since I had brewed beer. I think it's been a good, 6 years since I was at Google. So getting back to doing that and noticing all of the toys that I now have and have, the problem is the accessibility of going to like homebrewer.com or Northern Brewer or all of those places and spending a crap ton of money. But I have found through that, I have all sorts of great gadgets to do better temperature control for fermenting and everything else that I didn't have available to me when I was homebrewing 6 years ago. So,
isn't it impressive to see how, I mean, you know, you guys are in the tech world, but you know how the world has put all these great innovations that help you better everything from home brewing to the ordering experience. It's just fascinating to see what comes up with next. Looking just further ahead into the future, is there that one convenience you wish you had that you would ultimately like to throw into the brewery experience without revealing any trade secrets? Is there something that you personally believe, all 3 of you, or anyone really at the table, believe would be of value to the overall brewery experience that we don't currently have? I mean, besides obviously clapping your hands and the beer magically appearing in front of you, we're not quite there yet.
You know, this kind of exists, but I would love the ability to manage every beer I've drank. I mean, I realize Untapped sort of does this, but every beer I've ever drank in any tap room ever, and then to provide recommendations when I go to a new tap room. So I go on a road trip across the country and I stop into some random brewery. I want it to tell me, you'll probably like this IPA over this one because you've liked these other 15 various IPAs. And I think that kind of recommendation engine could be really interesting and really fun.
Alex, that's very interesting you say that. I'll have to share a link with you from an episode we had a while back with Esther.
Yeah.
It's a company that they do personalized flavor experiences, you know, based off your current preferences. So I think the idea is there and they're working towards that. So it'd be interesting to see how that becomes part of our daily lives over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the part that I'm more looking forward to when we can finally all get back out and have the experiences that we were so accustomed to having, the part what usually comes up during the pandemic, what's the first thing you're going to do? I want to go see live music again, not only as being a musician and liking performing as well, but also because the fact that I really just enjoy the energy that goes into that. And breweries have always been great spaces for live music. And the part that was always kind of missing, and we talked about this for a long time and never really got this put in place. You have the band, they go out with the tip jar. I don't carry cash on me anymore, so I'm really bad at that. But if I could find a way to be able to put that into my tab when I'm ready to leave, and not only that, unless my daughters are with me where they like to go to the stage and put it into the tip jar, I'm not going to go and run up to the stage either. But if I could find a way to be able to pay the band and have patrons be able to do that, I think that helps to. That's one of those places where technology aids, does not replace.
I like that, David. I would love for the feature to be able to buy the guitar player a beer mid-set and have it delivered side stage to them as like a tip of sorts.
Only problem happens if you're that guitar player and all of a sudden 5 beers show up. Man, I'm gonna be expecting you to drink them all.
It's all part of the show. Chris, what about you? Are there any technologies you'd like to see come into our lives that don't currently exist?
I'm trying to pinpoint things that they haven't already said to the detriment of going last. And there's got to be something out there around the collaborative nature of our industry, right? In some kind of technological partnership. I know we've talked about how can we quickly band together to use technology to raise funds for some form of disaster and emergency. Like we can all do that individually, but how can we collaborate? We saw that with like Black is Beautiful this summer. And how does that extend out, and how do we replicate that so that the collaboration that we live in just extends into more and more different places? So I don't know what it exactly looks like or what I would love for it to look like, but just the inspiration of how collaborative this industry is compared to especially like even others that I've worked in, I think there's something there and we can use it for good.
Yeah, I'll follow up with that. I think the ultimate goal is just draw awareness to good causes. I know it's such a general statement, but campaigns like Black is Beautiful, altogether, anything we can do for the greater good of society, it's such a feel-good statement. It really is. But it is so true. And I think at the moment right now in the current state of craft beer, it's fun to see how we can collaborate with people that are often not in the craft beer space to make our world a better place. Right now, there are the Things We Don't Say IPA. It's done by an organization called Hope for the Day. And they're an organization that draws attention to mental health. And right now in the current state of the world, I think we're all, having our own personal struggles. We're missing human interaction. So anything you can do to throw beer in there, but also a good cause where you feel good about having a beer, then it's a fantastic way to get more people involved in both the cause, but also the brewery.
Exactly.
Well, as we wind down, this has been fun. I always enjoy interacting with you because Arryved is always on the cutting edge of, new brewing-related technology. And it's always fun to have a conversation, revolving around entrepreneurship and, just beer, because that's a good time. That's what we all love talking about. So before we sign off, is there any way everyone can get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about the new OpenTab software, just Arryved in general?
They can go to arryved.com and they can either request a demo. We have buttons all over our site. And we'll get back to them right away, or they can call us or email us, and we have an email address and a phone number at the bottom of our website. And we would love to share more.
And I'll vouch for it. Alex, you're one of the most responsive people I know to email. I'll shoot you a response, and I'll have like a response back before I even, go to the next email in my inbox.
Rival only by you, Andrew.
I appreciate that. Well, hopefully you all can find a little time to unwind. David, like you mentioned, it's nice to hinge yourself from technology sometimes and just go do something you used to be able to do, whether it's homebrew or just go outside. So Chris, Alex, and David, it's always a pleasure catching up. I'm looking forward to that first beer together, hopefully later in the year. It was exciting to hear today a little bit more about, OpenTab. I'm looking forward to seeing a little data behind it as breweries start to use it more and more. So I appreciate the three of you, and let's chat again soon.
Great. Thanks so much, Andrew.
Look
Bye,
forward to it.
everybody.
Thank you, Andrew.
Bye.
Yeah.